Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview.
Oh, well, thank you, man.
Oh, well, of course. And of course, we're here to talk about your brand new album and brand new rock opera, Jesus Christ The Exorcist, which is coming out June 14th through Frontiers Music.
Yes, indeed.
I've just gotten the chance to be able to check this album out over the last couple days, and it just has everything that I love about your style of songwriting, both musically and lyrically, and seeing all the guests that you're able to have on this album, the story that's going through it, you know, from start to finish, this double disc concept rock opera is just everything that I expect from you, and it's so great to hear that.
Oh, well, that's great, man. Thank you so much.
Oh,
it's been a long time. It's been a long time coming.
So with that in mind, how did this all come together?
Well, you know, it's funny. Like a lot of my concept albums, most of them actually, started with some kind of a conversation with someone. A lot of times, somebody gives me an idea. They have an idea they want to share, you know. This was from a guy named Michael Kaplan, who you know, likes my music. He's a fan. Just a funny side note, I thought this was hilarious. The first time I ever spoke with him, he got my phone number from someone that we both know. I can't remember. But my phone rang, and it was like, hey, this is Michael Kaplan. Do you know who I am? Yeah, I know who you are. Hey, I just got one question for you. I just got your testimony album. It's my favorite album ever. I just have one question. I'm a Jew. Do you think I'm going to hell? That was my introduction to Michael Kaplan. So, and so we had we've had many long conversations, and he's become a friend over time. Anyway, in 2007 or 8, I don't remember exactly when, right around then, he called me and said, Neal, I spent last night listening to Jesus Christ Superstar with some friends. And I got to tell you, you know, we were all thinking, man, it's time. Somebody needs to do a new one of these kinds of works. And my friends were all saying that, and I said to myself, I've got the guy. I got the guy, you know, that whole thing. So he called me up, and I was laughing. You know, he always makes me laugh. And I just thought, well, I'll consider it. And I don't remember what I was in between. I was kind of in between albums, maybe in between, I don't know, maybe Sola and Whirlwind or something like that. I don't know. But I prayed about it and thought, you know, it felt like it was something I should do. So I dove into it, and I think I spent about 2 months writing it and then about a month demoing it, the original version. So I put a good 3 months into it. And that's how it began.
Oh, and it's so great to hear that too. You know, just a conversation can spark a whole concept album, and you know, it's great to see how many times that has happened, because it's really some of your finest work just from having these conversations.
Yeah, well, it's just about being open. And God, I believe God uses all kinds of ways to talk to us, all kinds of people, and we'll just stay open, listen, and consider. It'll lead to all kinds of amazing things. It really has. I mean, which one was it? Oh, the whole Similitude of a Dream and the Great Adventure. That was an email, I think, or maybe even a post on Twitter that somebody said, hey, Neal, have you ever considered, you know, writing a concept album, you know, based on Pilgrim's Progress? That was someone else's idea and stayed in my mind. And then when the time came, I felt some direction there. And then then it like explodes when other people catch the vision. You know, then the rest of the band caught the vision of it, and that took it to a whole other place.
Oh, absolutely. So, with that in mind, I mean, of course, every time that you are able to put out a work, whether it be the Neal Morse Band or under the Neal Morse banner, you're able to get some amazing musicians of all different styles. How did you know who to go with for this release? Well,
you can't go wrong. You know, there's a lot of people that you just know are going to be great. People in my world, you know, that are you know, really diligent, always willing, you know, just excited, you know, guys. The Neal Morse Band guys are just unbelievable. And, you know, I just asked them if they would, you know, be interested, because I was really in a crunch time-wise, because of the way this all came down last summer. There was Jesus Christ The Exorcist, the rewrite, the performance, and then the record. And then there was the Great Adventure and, you know, that album. And it was just, there was so much going on at the same time. And I was like, hey, do you guys want to, could you guys help me out and play, you know, play on this? And so they were great. You know, they were just wonderful players and great guys, great musicians. The strings, you know, I got a group of string players and horn players, younger people, the people that played at Morse Fest for the most part, not all of them. But that was kind of a no-brainer because we'd just done Morse Fest. And so basically, it's almost like the performance at Morse Fest was sort of the testing ground for the album, you know, and pretty much everybody was great. So I was just like, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's use all these people. It was great.
Yeah, and it's so great to see that, too, you know, being able to have that live experience and then being able to translate it into the studio.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we kept a lot of the same stuff. In fact, some of the performances, musical performances, and a few of the vocals of mine are from the 2008 demos. I was listening through going, well, if I liked it, I just left it. So some of the guitar tracks were from the original version. And then Paul Bilatovich came in, you know, sent some tracks in. Actually, he didn't come to Nashville. And Eric Gillette sent in a solo. Eric Gillette did the guitar solo in The Crucifixion. And Paul did the solo in the Overture. And I think one other place. But one of the solos, I think I left. I think the one in between Seven Devils and Free at Last is me from the demos because I just liked it as it was. And so it's kind of a hodgepodge of new stuff and old stuff. The whole album is, and you wouldn't know that listening to it. You know, of course we retracked all the drums. I redid most of the bass, but not all. I think some of the bass is left from the beginning. Randy redid a lot of the bass. I redid some of the bass, and so it's just this sort of hodgepodge of musicians and then the singers from Morse Fest.
Yeah, and that's what I love so much about your style, especially musically. When you listen through this entire album, it just like it ranges in so many different styles of music, but it all makes sense in the concept, and it's so great to hear that.
Oh man, well that's great. That's what you go for. You know, you take your best shot and hope for the best.
And what is that like for you? I mean, obviously, you know, growing up with prog and then being able to explore these different territories, especially with your solo work, what is that like for you to be able to go from like a blues track to a heavier track to a more melodic track to a ballad track?
Well, that's really normal for me. Growing up, when I did, and with my father being a choir director, and other choir directors that I was in a lot of choirs when I was young, studied a certain amount of classical music, and it was very eclectic. It always was. My dad, I think, thought it was boring to do a program all of the same style. So he'd do, you know, a classical piece, a pop piece, a Japanese song, a Negro spiritual, you know. So I grew up, and the concerts that we went to were like that too. You know, I saw Yes on the Close to the Edge tour in LA, and it was the Eagles, the Edgar Winter Group, and Yes. So the Eagles had just come out with like Take It Easy, I think. And so they were like the opening band that had to set up in the front of everybody. Hard to imagine, but you know what I mean? So having a lot of different styles in one thing was sort of the order of the day, and it's just really natural for me. You know, it's just kind of what happens for me. I don't really try to do it. It just happens. In fact, it's difficult for me to make an album that's all in the same style and doesn't branch out much.
Yeah, and again, that's what I love so much is because I also have that eclectic taste, and it doesn't matter what band or project that you've been a part of, you're always able to find something throughout the album from start to finish that I'm able to enjoy, especially musically, being able to touch all of that in one album. Yeah, well, that's what turned me on about prog in the first place. When I was 12 years old, and I've told this many times, but I'll tell it again. When I was 12 years old, I'd gotten into the power of rock when I was about 10, and so I saw Black Sabbath open up for Grand Funk Railroad at the LA Forum, and I really enjoyed Black Sabbath. So the next year, I went to see Black Sabbath, and they had this band that I had never heard of called Yes that was opening up. And when I heard Yes, it was like they somehow took everything that I loved about all styles of music and used it in these longer pieces. And, you know, it had good choruses, good pop elements,
nice vocals, you know, a cappella vocals that I'd grown up with, and jazz elements, and it also had the power of rock and classical and all of it. Was just kind of like a real light bulb aha kind of moment for me. And that's what I love about prog to this day, is you can, and I think it makes each style, it accentuates how much you like it when it's next to something different. Like, I like the complex stuff next to something very simple. You know, it makes me enjoy them both a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same way as well, too. I mean, I never really thought about it until you said it that way before, but when you are able to show off both sides of the spectrum like that, like something that's very complicated and then followed with something that's more easygoing and simple, I mean, you're able to appreciate both sides, especially if you can make it seamless next to each other.
Yeah, and especially, you know, especially if it's making a statement and telling a story. I'm thinking of on the One album, when I was trying to, I knew that God had to speak, God had to sing. What is God going to sound like? And I decided to make God very simple and give him one note. Which is different from Jesus Christ The Exorcist, where I decided that God was going to be the sound of the choir, you know. But I like that man was really loud and brash. It's in the piece called The Separated Man. And so, you know, man's like, this big, like Brian May sort of guitar solo, and then just cuts to just a piano and one voice going, you know, I have heard you crying in the night, you know, that kind of thing. And the quiet stillness of it next to the big rockin' thing accentuates it for me.
Yeah, and again, you know, especially when it comes into the thematic sounds to it like that. I mean, when you are able to have those great grandiose moments, and then you have the prog expertise that's going along with it, and you are able to have all of these different styles. And of course, the genre changes as well. I mean, when you're able to form it into a story like you've done so many times throughout so many different bands and projects and albums, I mean, it's great to see that artistic creativity is still as strong as ever.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm very grateful.
So obviously, with being able to do this in a live setting and then being able to release the full double disc concept album, I mean, what's it like for you to be able to experience the album in both sides?
Oh, really enjoyable. I wish sometimes I get so bogged down. I don't want to say bogged down. I get busy with a lot of different things. You know, this person needs this person needs that. I've got to do this on this forthcoming album. You know, it's like, whenever, like, by the time you're listening to an album, I finished it like 5 months ago, you know, and then I pass it off to Rich Mauser, who will spend like a month and a half mixing it or whatever, and you know what I mean? So when albums are actually getting done and released, I'm always like, right now, for example, this morning really early, I was doing the guide vocal tracks for the background vocals for Morse Fest 2019. And yesterday I did all my background vocals on a couple songs for the new Flying Colors album. You know, so sometimes I wish that I had a little more, or that I took a little more time just to sit back and really listen and enjoy what has happened, you know, what I've accomplished, what God has done. And, you know, sometimes I don't do enough of that. I just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and you know, when you are able to find those moments, when you are able to just sit back and relax with the work that you've done, you are able to look at those accomplishments that you've done that God has given you, and it's so great to be able to listen to all of that. But at the same time, you know, it's just like the fact that you are able to have this creativity and you are able to explore so many different sides of your musical personality, be it Neal Morse Band, Neal Morse, Flying Colors, Transatlantic. I mean, there's so many different sides to you, and it's great to be able to, for less of a pun, let those colors fly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a dream come true. You know, it's actually what's happened in my life is, I don't think it's anything short of a miracle. You know, that you could be, you know, 35 in the music business and have had nothing happen, like not even a advertising music deal, not a publishing deal, nothing. And then start doing this crazy prog music just sort of out of a kind of spirit of, well, I guess if we're going to fail, we might as well fail doing something that we love. And then that over time, so, you know, started very small, very niche, very underground, and over time, you know, turning into this, you know, actual career is I'm still amazed, some people, they see the cup half empty and they think, well, we should be playing for a lot more people than we are. Our audience should be bigger, but you always have to remember the times when you had no audience, and what an amazing thing it is that God has given people ears to hear, especially in this day and age. It's really a miracle.
Yeah, and I feel so much of that. I mean, it can come from music, it can come from any form of art, it can come from turning people to Christianity. I mean, however you want to look at your life, if you can even change one person's life with what you're capable of doing for the greater good, it's all worth it. Anything more than that is just a bonus.
Yeah, well, totally. Absolutely. Very well put.
Yeah, and again, I mean, that's what I love so much about this concept with Jesus Christ The Exorcist, because, again, it just covers so much ground of what I listen to musically. It's got this amazing story. You're able to have so many great voices. I mean, whether they're playing an instrument or using their own vocals as the instrument, and just like being able to tell this amazing story, and, translating it from the live setting into this recording, it gives you such an appreciation that it can be told in any form.
Yeah. Well, I'm just really, pretty blown away at how just step by step, it's this walking in faith and seeking direction, and not always getting it, but when I feel like I've gotten some direction, I try to go in the way that the Lord is calling me, and it's brought me to a beautiful place.
And that is such an amazing thing when you are able to find that in your personal life. I mean, some people are able to just show that off in their creative sense, but when you're able to have it throughout your whole life, when you are able to have a moment of clarity where you know the direction that you want to go in life and you want to be able to live with that happiness going forward. And it's so great that you were able to find that, and now almost 2 decades later being able to explore that so much in your artistic vision and of course your personal life. I mean, it's so great to see that from the fan perspective.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, a lot of it's about letting go. It really is. I mean, it's kind of a corny thing to say, but it's let go and let God. Let God have your career, and commit your way, as the scripture says, commit your ways unto him and he will bring it to pass. He's brought all this stuff to pass. Really, I almost always have no clue. When I set out to write the Jesus musical, to write Jesus Christ The Exorcist, I had no idea where it was going to go, if it was ever going to get produced. I just take a step of what you're feeling, and then wait for him to open the door.
Yeah, and again, with that in mind, I mean, with everything that you've done under your own work, and of course, now here again with another great example of that with Jesus Christ The Exorcist. I mean, being able to show all these different sides of your faith, so many different kinds of stories that go into it too. I mean, it can be lost, it can be dark, it can be so many different roads, and it's all leading towards that greater salvation. It always leads to that positive moment towards the end of the albums of being able to find yourself, find God, and find what's going to make you happy in life.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems to me like it makes sense. Even before I became a Christian, if you listen to my earlier epics, they always end with some kind of spiritual hope. Even something like The Water, I think, I forget what the last piece is right now, but it just always feels right to end with some kind of grander hope. Any kind of epic piece is going to take you on some kind of journey. And it just feels right to, like Beethoven ending the Ninth Symphony with the Ode to Joy, it just feels like the right thing.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's just like from my perspective of being able to enjoy so many different kinds of music and appreciate a full-on concept album. I mean, it's great to have that joyous, grand, happy ending at the end of it. I mean, no matter how dark something can get, so off the wall, the story that goes into it, when you are able to realize that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, I mean, it makes the whole experience worthwhile.
Yeah, well, I always want to bring people to a place of, a good landing, so to speak. And the challenge of doing that is how to do it without being like super corny. How do you do that without being cliche, how do you do that album after album after album in a way that feels fresh? I mean, that really is such a challenge, and I can only just credit God with it, honestly. For each, I have a testimony about every album that I've made, pretty much, that I can remember anyway, about how the Lord helped us to make it, to take it over the top to where we're sitting on the mountaintop with Him at the end.
So, with that in mind, I mean, what was that moment with God with this recording?
Oh, with this one, well, that was, for me, it was easy, really, because I've always been really touched by the fact that Mary, this woman who'd been a prostitute and been so, filled with demons, and that Mary is the one who goes to the tomb. The disciples aren't there. She's the one going in the early morning hours, not expecting to find him alive, just going there to anoint his dead body. And then she's the one that he first appears to when he's resurrected. And I just think that moment when Jesus just simply says Mary's name, like at first she doesn't recognize him, and so he's cloaked in some way. And then, when she says, I have nowhere else to turn, so here I'll stay. And he just simply says, again, I gave Jesus, two notes, Mary, Mary. And I think that those 4 measures and those 2 notes is one of the most powerful moments in this whole show. There's something about him calling our name in simplicity, through our confusion, through our desperation, and then them singing to each other about how much, this is really Jesus and humanity singing to each other about how much, about this great love of God that they're sharing it. And then to end it with, go and tell my brothers I have risen from the dead, I think it's the absolutely perfect way to end a Jesus musical. That's like, because the resurrection is, wow, that's kind of the pinnacle. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way the whole thing turned out.
Oh, and again, from the fan perspective, I love the way that it has turned out. I mean, this entire double disc concept album, being able to fully enjoy it, and now being able to talk to you about this whole experience. And again, Jesus Christ The Exorcist coming out June 14th through Frontiers Music, being able to experience this album, being able to talk to you about this whole experience of writing it, performing it live, everything that you got going on in the future as well too. I mean, being Morse Fest, being a new Flying Colors album. I mean, there's so much to look forward to when it comes to your work, and it was great to be able to talk about this concept album in particular.
Well, yeah, I'm really excited for it to be coming out. And also, I wanted to mention Waterfall, the Waterfall app. I started my own streaming app. So if there's anybody out there that wants to be able to just access streaming-wise from wherever they are on their phone or their device, everything, pretty much every Frontline release that I've ever made in my entire life is on there. All the Spock's Beard stuff and the obscure stuff that is out of print. And also Flying Colors and Transatlantic, Neal Morse Band, Neal Morse, and just the whole shebang. It's all on there. It's pretty extensive. So the Waterfall app, yeah, waterfallstreaming.com.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to check that out after I finish editing and EQing this interview. I mean, that sounds exactly up my alley. I mean, being a longtime fan of Spock's Beard and absolutely enjoying everything you've done post-Spock's Beard, I mean, that just sounds like something that's absolutely perfect to be able to enjoy your work.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, and the thing that's so cool about streaming, as you know, is, you don't have to get up out of your recliner and turn the LP over. So it's really cool just to have it all at your fingertips. In fact, I've listened to a bunch of music of mine that I hadn't listened to in forever, just because it was so easy to access and I didn't have to look for it.
Yeah, and that's such a great use for it. And I'm glad to see that, be it the obscure out-of-print work, be it some of your best-known work, I mean, it's all available to check out through Waterfall and just being able to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, awesome. And with that, I think that's an amazing note to end on. Thank you so very much for taking this time to talk to me about everything going on in the world of Neal Morse. And of course, again, the brand new concept album, Jesus Christ The Exorcist, coming out June 14th through Frontiers Music. I love this album, and I appreciate you taking this time to be able to talk to me about everything that you got going on.
Well, thanks so much, man. It's been a pleasure.